It was raining when Ethan saw her for the first time. Not the romantic kind of rain, the messy, cold, sideways rain that makes you question your life choices. He was standing outside the small diner he visited every Friday after work, half soaked, waiting for his takeout, when she stepped out of the alley beside it. She was holding a tray of cupcakes, some half-crushed, others wrapped carefully in plastic. Her hair was damp, her jeans torn at the knee, and her jacket 2 sizes too big. She looked like someone who had weathered more than the storm. "Hey," he said, offering his umbrella. "You okay?" She smiled faintly. "Just another rainy day in my world." Something in her tone made him hesitate. It wasn't pity he felt. It was curiosity mixed with a quiet pull of compassion. She introduced herself as Lila, a baker trying to restart her life after losing her small shop in a fire 2 months earlier. Now she baked from a borrowed kitchen and sold cupcakes around town to keep the dream alive. When Ethan offered to buy a few, she shook her head. "These are for the shelter nearby. Kids love them." That simple sentence hit him harder than expected. He bought every cupcake she had left and handed them back. "Then let me be your customer for them today." Her eyes softened. "You don't have to." "I want to," he said. Kindness deserves company. A week later, they met again, this time inside the diner. Lila had been invited by the owner to sell desserts on weekends, thanks to Ethan's recommendation. She wore a simple gray sweater, hair tied up in a messy bun, no makeup, no sparkle, just warmth in her tired eyes. They talked for hours, about burnt recipes, lost dreams, second chances. She laughed in a way that made the entire place brighter. But one evening, as they cleaned up after closing, she said quietly, "You know, most people expect someone prettier, more put together. I'm not beautiful like you expected." Ethan looked at her for a long moment, the kind of silence that feels like truth. Then he smiled softly. "Lila," he said, "you're perfect." She blinked, confused. "Not because of how you look," he continued. "Because you keep giving even when life's taken so much from you. That's what perfect looks like." Months passed. Her cupcakes became the diner's signature item. Customers came for the sweetness, but stayed for her laughter. Ethan helped her rebuild her bakery, a cozy little corner shop with white brick walls and hand-painted signs. She named it Second Chance Sweets. On opening day, she placed a photo on the counter of the old shop, burned and broken, and beside it, a handwritten note. "For everyone who ever felt not enough. You are. You always were." Ethan arrived late carrying a small umbrella, the same one from the night they met. When she saw him, she smiled, her eyes bright but shy. "This place," she whispered, voice trembling. "It's everything I dreamed." He held out the umbrella, just as before. "And so are you." The rain had stopped hours ago, but the street still glistened under the faint glow of the streetlights. Inside the bakery, the air smelled of vanilla and warm sugar. Layla wiped the last bit of flour from the counter, her hands trembling slightly. The day had been long but beautiful. Every customer who walked in had left with a smile and a story. Ethan stood by the door, watching her with that quiet admiration she still didn't know how to accept. "You did it," he said softly. "You really did." Lila looked around at the shelves of pastries, the hand-painted chalkboard with today's special, hope in every bite written in swirly letters, and the little bell that chimed every time someone opened the door. "I had help," she murmured. He chuckled. "You had heart. That's rarer." She walked over to him, still holding the towel in her hand, eyes uncertain. "Do you ever think," she began slowly, "that maybe I don't deserve all this? That maybe I just got lucky?" He frowned slightly, stepping closer. "You think luck rebuilt these walls? You think luck woke up at 3 a.m. to bake hundreds of cupcakes when no one was watching?" He reached out and gently took the towel from her hand. "That wasn't luck, Lila. That was you." For a moment, she couldn't speak. Her throat tightened, her chest rising and falling as if her body couldn't quite hold everything she was feeling. "I used to hate looking in the mirror," she whispered. "After the fire, I had scars. Not just outside. Here." She placed her hand over her heart. "I thought I'd lost the best parts of myself." He looked at her with a softness that could melt walls. "You didn't lose them," he said. "You just had to live long enough to see them differently." She blinked, tears welling. "I don't know how you always say the right thing." Because I mean it, he replied. Every word. Outside, the wind picked up, brushing the sign that hung above the bakery door. It creaked gently, swaying with the breeze as if the world was nodding in agreement. Lila stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan, I'm not beautiful like you expected. He smiled. The kind of smile that came from somewhere deep beyond the surface, beyond the ordinary. Lila, he said, you're perfect. The words hung in the air like a quiet prayer. She looked up, her eyes meeting his, and for the first time in years, she didn't flinch away. She saw herself through his gaze, not as broken or plain, but as someone whole. Someone who had survived. The world outside was still the same, full of noise and storms and strangers rushing past each other. But in that little bakery, under the soft golden light, something sacred happened. Two people who had once been strangers now stood in a silence filled with understanding. Lila smiled through her tears. Thank you, she whispered. Ethan shook his head. Don't thank me. Just keep doing what you do, making the world a little sweeter. She laughed softly, brushing her hair back. You know, she said, people come here for cupcakes, but sometimes I think what they're really craving is kindness. He nodded. And you've got more of that than anyone I know. That night after Ethan left, Lila locked up the bakery and stood by the window. The city lights shimmered across the glass, and for the first time in a long time, her reflection didn't look like a stranger's. It looked like someone she was proud of. Somewhere deep inside, she realized something Ethan had seen all along. Perfection isn't about flawless faces or perfect lives. It's about choosing to love yourself even when the world doesn't. And as she turned off the lights, her heart whispered what her lips never could. Maybe, just maybe, I'm finally enough.